morning and welcome to Expert Global Consult. My name is Amade Solomon Ojodali, a safety specialist with over 8 years downstream oil and gas sector safety experience and 5 years training experience. Today, I'll be anchoring and handling a training session on health, safety, and environment. That is HSC level 1, 2, and 3. Who is this course for? This course is for supervisors. This course is for every member of the organization who is interested in creating an enabling environment in his workplace. Some of the topics we'll be talking about today will be HSC level 1, 2, and 3, Introduction to Occupational Safety and Health, what causes accidents, how do we prevent accidents, what are the importance of safety, incident investigation and analysis, and even risk assessment. Sit down and take a coffee, relax your mind, and we're going to have a very interactive and practical session this morning. Thank you and welcome. Good morning, you are welcome back to this session of health, safety, and environment. Just like I said before, my name is Amade Solomon, a health, safety, and environment specialist with over 8 years downstream oil and gas safety experience and over 5 years training experience. I'm a member of the faculty of this noble organization, and we are going to have an interactive session here. Just as I always say, feel free to ask questions. You are not completely ignorant of the course we are about to handle. You know something. So feel free to ask questions. Let this class be active and what? Lively. Now, what is HSE? I'm handling a course titled what? HSE. What is HSE? Why do we practice HSE? How did HSE come about? We are going to start with the introduction to occupational what? Safety and health. And before I move on, I always start by asking this question. What is the greatest thing on your mind right now? What are the things going on in your mind? What is your major preoccupation? You find out that to earn a living, every human being needs a job. True or false? True. Every human being requires a job to be able to what? Make a living. And so in the quest to make a living, we engage in different types of what? Occupation. And that is what we refer to as what? Occupational safety and health. Occupational safety and health refers to what? The different occupations we engage in order to earn what? A living. And so some people are involved in oil and gas sector. Some people are involved in the food industry. Some people are involved in the construction industry. Some are involved in the engineering industry. Some are engaged in the maritime industry. And some are engaged even in what? Transportation. You see people what? Driving from one location to what? Another. Even for an individual like me, I am involved in what? The education what? Industry. And so you find out that we found out that as man started his career towards what? Achieving his life goals, there are accidents involved in each job you do. True or false? You find out that as a result of the job you do, you begin to come in contact with different kinds of what? Accidents. And so we are going to be talking about what is accidents and how do we prevent this what? Accidents. Now, you remember there's a time we refer to as what? The Stone Age. The Stone Age is characterized by what? Man doing all his work by his hands. You remember when man could fight a lion with his bare hands. There was a time man slept on trees. There was a time when man wants to make fire, he strikes his two fingers or stones together to what? Make fire. Man lived what? Within that area or that era we refer to as what? The Stone Age. From the Stone Age, he moved to what? The age we call Industrial Revolution. That is the age where man started working with what? Machineries. And some of these machineries can either be mechanical, some of them are what? Electrically what? Powered. Example, you see man started making use of what? Electricity. And you see, for instance, a NEPA official goes to work on a cable or an electric installation. He gets shocked. If it's your father, how will you feel? Have you ever seen a man fall from a NEPA pole? If you see a man fall from a NEPA pole, what are the things that happens to him? He dies. Who takes over the wife? Who takes care of the children? I've seen children become fatherless in a twinkle of an eye. You see an engineer go offshore. A lot of us in life in Nigeria will want to work in the oil and gas sector. Some of us will want to work in the maritime sector. But I've seen accidents on oil platforms where people fall into water and they drown. If that's your wife, how will you feel? I've seen people in an environment get involved in chemical splash. And you see a beautiful woman just recently married, gets involved in a chemical splash, and she's changed from black to yellow. How will you feel? I've seen people fall from trees. I've seen people get involved in vehicle accidents. I've seen people fall from heights on construction sites. And so if people get involved in this accident, what are the pains associated with these accidents? Apart from death, apart from injury, apart from the medical bills, we have also what? The psychological effects of what? Accidents. The economic effects of what? Accidents. And so as a result of these workplace accidents, or, God forbid, have you ever seen a child whose parents lose because a nurse or a doctor forgot an item during surgery within his system? I've seen children receive wrong injections. Why do workers lose their minds and do such things? So we are going to be talking about what? This occupational what? Accident. So as a result of these occupational accidents, a body was formed in the United States of America. As a result of what? Occupational accident, a body was formed in the United States of America. And this body is called OSHA. The body is called what? OSHA. This body was formed to manage the issues of what? Occupational what? Accidents. And what is OSHA? OSHA stands for Oshas. And what is the full meaning of Oshas? Occupational Safety and Health what? Administration. Occupational what? Safety and Health Administration. Apart from accidents that occur in the place of work, the kind of work you do can also lead to what? Cases of ill health. The job you do, if not properly and carefully managed, can equally lead to what? Adverse what? Health situation. I give you an instance. You see a construction worker working on a construction site. He's interacting with what? Silica dust on a daily basis. That silica dust can lead to what? Issues of ill health that we refer to as what? Chronic effects of exposure. As a result of interacting with that silica dust on a daily basis, in a long while, it can build up to issues that are referred to as what? Cancer in the body. I've seen people become infertile as a result of what? Exposure to radiations. People can also be exposed to what we call asbestos. When asbestos goes into your system, asbestos can remain in your system for 15 years. And after that 15 years, your lungs are what? Completely what? Damaged. So as a result of the occupation you do, you can be exposed to different forms of accidents and what? Ill health. The next question we are going to answer, or the next thing we are going to discuss in a short while, is how does occupational safety and health manage the issues, occupational safety and health administration manage the issues of occupational accidents? There are two ways. There are how many ways? Two ways by which occupational safety and health is managed in what? An organization. One of those ways is what? By assigning roles and responsibilities to what? Employers of what? Labor. One of those ways is by what? Assigning roles and responsibilities to what? Employers of what? Labor. The second way is by what? Assigning roles and responsibilities to employers in what? An organization. You find out that an organization is made up of both employers of labor and employees in an organization. And so to manage occupational safety and health, to ensure that the workplace is safe and free from harm and hazards, two major individuals are involved, or sections are involved. The employers of labor have a role and responsibility to carry out. The employees in an organization equally have a role to what? Carry out. Now, let's look at the responsibilities of what? The employers of labor. What are the responsibilities of what? The employers of labor. Are you an employer of labor? You need to know your responsibility as an employer of labor in maintaining occupational what? Safety. As an employee in an organization, you must also know your duties and your responsibility in making sure that the workplace is safe for everybody to work in. And so let's start with what? The roles and responsibilities of the employers of labor. Number one, I refer to it as IITS. IITS. The first I stands for what? Information. The first I stands for what? Information. And what is information? That means as an employer of labor, you must inform the workers in your environment about the hazards that are prevalent in that organization. Are people going to be exposed to hazardous materials like paints? Are they going to be exposed to hazardous materials like chemicals? Are they going to be exposed to hazardous materials like ionizing radiations? Are they going to be exposed to materials like non-ionizing radiation? Are they going to be exposed to silica dust? Are they going to be exposed to asbestos? Are they going to be handling machineries that have what? Dangerous parts, and implement necessary controls? So as a worker, as an organization, you have the role and responsibilities to inform your workers and the people that operate within your environment about the hazards that are prevalent in that environment. That's why if you go to oil and gas sectors, if you go to the construction industry, when coming into their premises, the first thing they normally do is called what? Safety induction. What is that safety induction? The organization is basically and primarily informing you about the hazards that are prevalent in that organization. The next thing from information is what? Instruction. The next thing from information is what? Instruction. The next thing is what? Instruction. What is instruction? The instruction is what? The do's and the don'ts. The do's and what? The don'ts. I'm talking about IITS. The first is information. Information. Instruction. What is instruction? The instruction is telling you the do's and the don'ts and the measures to put in place to ensure that the hazards do not become what? A harm. When you go to some environments, you hear, do not climb, do not enter. You see such instructions. Hazards must be worn in this environment. Speed limit should not exceed 15 kilometers per what? Hour. No drinking. These are what? Instructions to protect you. And in even our domestic environments, you see environments like dog in these premises. When you see an environment where it is what? Do not enter. Dogs, beware of dogs. These are what? Giving you instructions about the hazards that are prevalent in that organization. If you go to oil and gas sector, you see speed limit is what? 15 kilometers per hour. No hazard, no what? Entry. As a result of the COVID-19 recently, we see things like what? No face masks, what? No entry. These are instructions given to what? Individuals to ensure that the hazards that are prevalent in that environment does not turn into what? A harm. The next thing organization provides is what we refer to T, which is training. Organizations spend a lot of money to keep their workers abreast of facts, to let their workers understand best practices within the organization as far as the hazard within that organization and the control measures are what? In place. The next is supervision. What is supervision? Every worker must be supervised. Human nature is such that when instructions are given, people tend to violate instructions. Yes or no? When you give people instructions, people tend to what? Violate what? These instructions. And so to ensure that the information, the instruction, the training provided are carefully and strictly adhered to, workers are what? Supervised at what? Job site. I've been mentioning a word, hazard. Hazard, 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 and nobody asked me to talk about hazard. The next thing we are going to talk about is what cause accidents. But before I talk about what cause accidents, I've talked about what? The roles and responsibility of what? The employer of what? Labor. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the roles and the responsibilities of the employee in an organization. I'm going to talk about the roles and the responsibility of the employee in an organization. As an employee in an organization, you equally have roles and responsibilities to perform. What are the roles and responsibilities of the employers of labor? Number one is what? You must identify hazards. You must what? Identify hazards. Number two is you must report hazards. I'm coming back to this. Identify hazards, report hazards, identify near misses, identify near misses, near miss, report near misses, report near miss, follow up for closure, obey all company rules and regulation. What does this mean? As a worker in an organization, you have the role and the responsibility to first and foremost identify the hazards within what? Your workplace. What is hazard? I'm coming to definitions. And when I'm talking about definitions, we are going to define what hazards are. But let me give you the definition of hazard so that you understand what we are what? Making reference to as hazards. Hazard is anything that has the potential to cause harm to people, equipment, and what? Machinery. When talking about the classes of hazard, we will give what? Detailed examples of what? hazards under each class. Number one, we said that as a worker in an organization, it is your duty and your responsibility to what? Identify what? Hazards. Number two, you must report hazards. And so every organization must have what we call hazard reporting format. There must be tools that are kept in place to document what? Hazard what? Reports. Number two, identify what? Near miss. What is a near miss? A near miss is an incident or an accident that has occurred but did not lead to what? A loss. I'll give you further examples as we progress in this course. Now, you must also report near misses. Every organization must have what? Near miss reporting tool. Okay. We talked about report what? Near misses. We said what's a near miss? A near miss is an accident or an incident that has occurred but did not lead to what? A loss. We are coming to explain that in details when we talk about what? The pyramid of what? Safety. You must follow out for closure. When a hazard is identified, when a near miss is what? Reported. You find out that at times, as a result of oversight, or for one reason or the other, the hazard or the near miss is not closed out. So to ensure that the hazard does not turn to a harm, the near miss does not turn to an accident, you make sure that you keep on following with your supervisors and managers to ensure that the hazards and the near misses are what? Closed out. The next thing is what? Obey all company rules and what? Regulation. We talked about the duties and the responsibilities of the employers of labor. An employer of labor will naturally state out safety rules, policies, and guidelines within the organization. It is the duty of what? The employers in that organization to ensure that all rules and regulations are what? Obeyed. To ensure you have what? An effective what? And safe what? Work site. Now, let's talk about the pyramid of what? Safety. Let's talk about what? The pyramid of safety. What leads to accidents? Accidents don't just happen. What causes accidents? And when accidents occur, how do they build up? That is what this pyramid is talking about. Accidents start from what? Hazards, near miss, unsafe acts, unsafe behavior. If hazards, near misses, unsafe acts, unsafe behaviors are not controlled, it leads to what? An accident. And when these accidents occur, they can be minor or they may be major. For minor accidents, you may sustain injuries, and for major accidents, it leads to what? Fatality, which is what? Fatality or death. So, what causes accidents? What causes accidents? We said that the goal of occupational safety and health is to prevent work-related what? Accidents. Why do we talk about work-related accidents? Because when accidents occur, they have what? Terrible what? Effect. Like the loss of a loved one. Life-threatening what? Diseases. Life-threatening injuries. Permanent disabilities. Temporary what? Disabilities. And so as a result of this circumstance that arise from workplace accidents, we try and put in measures to prevent what? Occupational accidents. How do we prevent these occupational what? Accidents? We said is by what? Taking a look at hazards, near misses, unsafe acts, and unsafe behavior. Who are the ones who cause accidents? Or what cause accidents at work? What cause accidents? Accidents are caused by human beings. 99% of accidents at work site or accidents in every location are caused by what? Human beings. How do human beings cause accidents? Human beings cause accidents from risk tolerance, in getting involved with hazards, near misses, unsafe acts, and on what? Unsafe behavior. So what is hazard? What is hazard? So let's talk about hazards. Hazard, we say, is anything that has the potential to what? Cause harm. Anything that has the potential to what? Cause harm. Example, overloading of sockets. Wet floor. A lot of us live in environments where we have polished surfaces. Chemical exposure of chemicals. Overspeeding. We'll come to that as unsafe acts and unsafe behavior. But let's talk about the different classes of hazards. Then I'll give examples of what? The different classes of hazard. We have said that hazard is anything that has what? The potential to cause harm. To people, to equipment, and to what? Machinery. To people, equipment, machinery, and what? The environment. So classes of hazards. The first class of hazard is what we refer to as what? Visible or physical hazards. They are hazards you can what? See. Examples of physical hazard. Unguarded machineries. Unguarded what? Machineries. Oil spill. Oil on the floor. Wet floors. Exposure to what? Trailing cables. What can trailing cable lead to? It leads to slip, trip, and what? Falls. From trailing cables, we have what? Off-cuts. If you go to some construction sites, you see off-cuts littered everywhere. When you step on an off-cut, what do you think it can lead to? It can lead to trip, it can lead to cuts. So physical hazards are hazards you can what? See. I've talked about overloading of sockets. Exposed what? Cables. From physical hazard, we have biological hazards. Example of biological hazards are hazards from virus, like the coronavirus that we have is an example of a biological hazard. We have virus, fungi, protozoa, and bacteria. Hazards from what? Fungi, virus, bacteria, and protozoas are what referred to as what? Biological what? Hazards. These relate to what? Ill health. They are microorganisms that what? Cause what? Ill health. We refer to them as what? Biological what? Hazards. Then there's what we call mechanical hazards. Mechanical what? Hazards. In all the jobs we do today, 90% of the jobs we do today is by handling what? Machineries. True or false? At work, we handle one form of machinery or the other. So hazards that come from the machines you handle are referred to as what? Machinery or mechanical what? Hazards. Number one, what do these machineries cause? They can lead to entanglement. They can lead to puncture. They can lead to stabbing. There are some machines that emit radiations. Some people sit down with a computer in the office from morning till evening. We refer to it as DSE, display screen equipment. What are the hazards that come from display screen equipment? Defects of the eyes, and some of you, defects of the eye from the sitting from morning till evening. It leads to what we call musculoskeletal what? Disorders. MSD. Musculo what? Skeletal what? Disorders. These are disorders associated with what? The soft tissues of the body. Soft tissues of the body, your ligaments, your tendons. As a result of what? As a result of overstretching, your sitting position, standing position, or overexertion of force. This generation, young men and women are exposed to their phones from morning till evening. As a result of the use of your phone from morning till evening, on the long run, we call it what? Chronic effects of exposure. At your 40s and 50s, you begin to experience what we call Parkinson. Parkinson disease.